guys, so it's me Alexis. Welcome back to my astrology channel, and today I'm going to be doing a full moon horoscope for Geminis, and this is going to be an astrology and a tarot reading. So this reading will apply if you're a Gemini sun or rising, mostly rising. And yeah, before I go ahead and get started, I kind of want to talk about the full moon that's happening on the 15th. So it's going to be at 22 degrees Aquarius, and the sun and Venus are going to be really tightly conjunct, and it's going to be opposing the moon. So yeah, I'm going to go ahead and kind of talk about how that will, affect Geminis. Now, I just want to let you guys know that this is a general reading and that I will be using whole signs specifically to kind of make this horoscope. So yeah, if you really want to know how this will personally affect you, you should probably go ahead and check your own natal chart personally. And yeah, and I just want to give you guys a little caveat that since it's really like a case-by-case basis, I want to emphasize that this is a general reading. So if it doesn't apply to you, look at your chart and see why it doesn't personally apply. But yeah, let's go ahead and get this started. Hopefully it all resonates. So Gemini, this full moon in Aquarius is going to be happening between your 3rd house and your 9th house. Leo rules your 3rd house and Aquarius rules your 9th house. And we have a full moon in 22 Aquarius that's sitting in your 9th house, and then the sun and Venus are conjunct in your 3rd house. And then on top of that, the transiting Saturn right now is in Capricorn, which would put Saturn in your 8th house. So Gemini, with Leo season, with your sun and Venus being super conjunct in the 3rd house, I think this shows an emphasis on connecting with yourself. Sun and Venus conjunction, and maybe, lately you've been wanting to find your own voice, or maybe perhaps you want to stabilize your own voice. What I mean by this is that you've been trying to center your thoughts. Maybe you've been writing a lot more, talking a lot more, communicating a lot more. If you have any siblings or any neighbors, maybe you've been trying to connect with them. I wouldn't be surprised because there's that whole Venus conjunction there. It kind of depends on how it's all manifesting for you, but there's a lot going on in your 3rd house. The 3rd house is the house of communication. It's the house of neighbors and siblings. Early schooling is kind of in this house, so your classmates from high school and below, so middle school, elementary school, etc., etc. And how you think and how you write, all of that is in your 3rd house. And there's been a lot going on because your sun and your Venus are in there. They're conjunct or stuck together. They're super buddy right now. And how I would interpret this is that lately, with the sun, that kind of shows your focus. But then with the conjunction of Venus is the planet of connection, it's the planet of relationships, it's the planet of relating. So as of right now, I think with these Leo planets, you've been trying to really mentally reconnect with yourself. When it comes to your thoughts, maybe you've been trying to be, a bit more mindful. When you kind of think about yourself, you're just kind of is that reflective of who I am? Or whenever I write this, or whenever I talk to someone, is this reflective of who I should be? That is something that perhaps you've been, kind of thinking about. Or you've been reevaluating your, close proximity relationships, like your siblings or your neighbors or maybe some old classmates. And you're sitting here thinking, are these relationships really, a good reflection of who I am? If someone were to directly correlate, my relationship with these people to who I am as a person, would I be proud of myself? So that's something you should also consider. Now, the full moon is happening in your 9th house, which is the house of the world. This is the house of philosophy. This is the house of traveling, religion, your worldly perspective. Now, sometimes, with the sun and Venus so close together, and then, Mars is also in your 3rd house whenever this is happening. Maybe there's been this whole centered, perspective on you just being I want to be in my immediate environment. I want to find myself exclusively and only in my immediate environment. So that could be through my thoughts, through the way I write, the way that I talk to other people, the way I do the way I do my short little errands, stuff like that. However, with the full moon in Aquarius, this full moon is asking you to kind of expand your circle a bit. Hey, there's you can find yourself in, various places. It doesn't have to be in your neighborhood. You don't have to restrict it to the people that you grew up with. I don't know, you can find more about yourself when you kind of go far. You can find a lot more about yourself from people that you don't really know that well. Or, whenever you think about things from a worldly perspective, when you kind of think outside the box for a bit. I think as of right now, like if the third house is kind of like the box and the ninth house is the action of going out of the box, this full moon is asking you like, hey, you gotta go outside the box, like think outside the box. And you know, you don't have to confine yourself into this little box of thoughts and perhaps certain people. You can go out there, you can go out and explore. Like there is no harm in exploring right now. And then on top of that, Saturn is going to be in your 8th house, and the 8th house is kind of like, it's like an interesting house. It's like the house of like taxes and death and power struggles between other people. Debt is in this house, and I think specifically when it comes to this interpretation, like with the full moon in the 9th house, if you go out of your way to kind of explore and to, you know, define yourself, like, you know, outside of just like the way you think, looking to see how other people think and kind of see like different bodies of thought, like that is going to help you not only learn about yourself or help you find a new way to learn about yourself, it's going to help you learn about other people. Now, I'm not really sure why, you know, personally, why you're trying to like, you know, define yourself from your thoughts and from your immediate environment. But the 8th house is kind of like the house of debt and like other people. And as I said earlier, it's also power struggles. And by knowing and becoming more cultured of like worldly affairs, like you're gonna know a bit more about how people can generally be, and that is gonna be really useful when it comes to, you know, your Saturn in the 8th, because with Saturn in the 8th, you've been you know, struggling or at least trying to structure, you know, your power dynamics with other people. And that could be with debt, stuff like that, and like, you know, thinking about who owes what and whether the give or take in your current, like, you know, power dynamics when it comes to relationships, like, you know, whether that's actually healthy or not. Like that is something you've been thinking about for a while with Saturn being in Capricorn. And, you know, this full moon can kind of help you with that. And the way to approach that is to kind of, you know, expand a bit, expand your circle for a little bit. Like, yes, like your thoughts and your immediate environment can say a lot about you, but hey, when it comes to identity, when it comes to defining yourself, like, you know, you don't have to confine yourself so much. Like you can be so much. You just gotta let yourself. So yeah, let's go ahead and do the tarot reading. Ooh. So I want to go ahead and kind of give you guys a 3-card reading. I've been doing this for the other signs, and ideally this will tell you 3 little things you gotta know for the full moon, or things that are gonna happen to you. So let's just see what the cards are going to tell us today. Oh. Okay, fine. I'll stop shuffling. Okay. I think you guys will actually have 4 cards because my card just fell out. So you're gonna get 4 cards because, I don't know, my deck wanted to say something extra. This is gonna be the first card, second card. Okay. Interesting. Especially if it's about money. But it may not be. Depends. So, the card that fell out is the Page of Coins. Look at her, she's so cute. Then I got the 6 of Wands. And I have Judgment. And the King of Coins. So, I think the 8th house is really important for this context, especially with the coins, man, like money, man. So as I said earlier, like the 8th house is the house of, you know, debt, power dynamics with other people, and it's really interesting that these cards kind of came out the way they did. So when I see the Page of Coins, I think of a person who has been really trying hard to kind of, you know, establish some structure in their life. When I think of coins, I think of Earth. So, you know, with Earth, it's very practical, very realistic, very, you know, grounded. So lately, I mean, the context here is that, you know, you've been trying to ground yourself. However, like the Page is kind of, you know, they're a little quick, they're a little, you know, a little immature, a little premature, and, you know, maybe, you know, you've been going about it the wrong way. Like, might have been trying to ground yourself in a way that may not actually hold a steady foundation. And we're gonna go ahead and kind of help you out with that. So, when I see the 6 of Wands, I think of like celebration, I think of like recognition. So this is kind of like a cool card. I would say that these two cards kind of go together. So there's Judgment and then there's the 6 of Wands. So when I think of the 6 of Wands, like when it comes to the people that you've kind of been with immediately, so like your classmates, your siblings, maybe your neighbors growing up, like, you know, as of right now, like with the 6 of Wands, it kind of shows like a celebratory kind of feel. You can feel like you can celebrate yourself with these people. So like in a way, like these people are kind of validating who you are right now. However, with the Judgment card, I think this is my deck's way of saying like, hey, you know, things may have been going well with the people that you grew up with, but this is not the only answer about who you are. Like, you know, when it comes to determining who you are as a person or defining yourself, if you're just gonna take this as the only answer that you got right now, you are doing yourself an injustice. So with the Judgment card, this is kind of my deck's way of saying like, hey, you know, it's a good and a bad thing because, hey, you know, as of right now, this is one opinion or one perspective of who you are when it comes to other people, and it's a positive one. However, with Judgment is just kind of like, hey, it's not the only one. Like, you know, there could be a negative one somewhere, and the fact that you're accepting this one too quickly, like, you're not gonna be, you know, building a truly stable foundation. And the goal of all of it is that you do want to build something stable. You want to build a stable, grounded sense of self, but you got to be open to more perspectives. And that's why, you know, the full moon is happening in your 9th house. The 9th house is different philosophies, different people that did not grow up with you, like university, you know, religion, philosophy, like the worldly perspective. Like, yeah, the immediate world and the way that you think about yourself can say a lot about you, but let's think about how other people think and, you know, what other, you know, what the world is, what's going on in the world. Because if you're gonna go ahead and try to get perspective on who you are from other people, you may as well survey the whole area, not just a specific area that particularly knows you well. There's value in that, but hey, you gotta look at the big picture if you want to get something stable. You can't go at it too hastily by only relying on, you know, one or a few sources. If you really want to be stable, you gotta look at, you know, other sources, like the bigger picture. So yeah, that is my spread for you, Gemini. I hope that it resonates with you. Again, this horoscope will apply if you are a Gemini sun or rising. So yeah, thank you guys so much for watching, and I hope it all resonates.